Hi readers, welcome to my weekend books and welcome back to my channel. Lee here, and I'm throwing stuff around here. Apologies. I actually have a bigger stack for this weekend books than I expected, which is, because I've got a problem and I've really got to cut back on my book buying. But that's neither here nor there. Let's start with the surprise book that I received this week. My colleague, Luke Rokos, I always mispronounce your name, sorry Luke, sent me a surprise book called Bolivar by Marie Arana, American Liberator. I had not heard of this character before. Simon Bolivar freed 6 countries from Spanish rule and is still the most revered figure in South America today. He traveled from Amazon jungles to the Andes Mountains, engaged in endless battles, and forged fragile coalitions of competing forces and races. He lived an epic life filled with heroism, tragedy, and legend. In Bolivar, Marie Arana has written a sweeping biography that is as bold and passionate as its subject. I am excited to read this once I finish my current nonfiction book. This is about a character I'm not very educated on, and it's about a part of the world that I'm not familiar with as I am other parts of the world. Anyway, thanks Luke. I really appreciate it. This will be my next nonfiction read this year. Now for some fiction books. I'd planned to buy 2 this week. I ended up with 5 fiction. I don't know how that happens. First one, planned book, was Rainbow Black by Maggie Threash. This takes place in it looks like 2 timelines maybe, or it starts in one timeline and ends in another. And it's a satanic panic book, and I love that. Lacey Bond is a 13-year-old girl in New Hampshire, growing up in the tranquility of her hippie parents' rural daycare center. Then, the satanic panic hits. It's the summer of 1990 when Lacey's parents are handcuffed, flung into the county jail, and faced with a torrent of jaw-dropping accusations as part of a mass hysteria sweeping the nation. When a horrific murder brings Lacey to the breaking point, she makes a ruthless choice that will haunt her for decades. As an adult, Lacey mimics a normal life as the law clerk for an illustrious judge. She has a beautiful girlfriend, a measure of security, and the world has mostly forgotten about her. But after a tiny misstep spirals into an uncontrolled legal disaster, the hysteria threatens to begin all over again. So, Rainbow Black, it's said, is an addictive, searing, high-octane triumph, an imaginative tour de force about one woman's tireless desire to be free. Interesting. So yeah, starts out in it goes to 1983, 1988, I'm sure it'll get to 1990 at some point. Looking forward to reading this, but I've got to also focus on some books that I have been neglecting. Next up, I had decided to save this book as if I happen upon it, but I couldn't help myself. Expiration Dates was published this week. Rebecca Serle wrote In 5 Years and One Italian Summer. Both have time jumps in them, and I couldn't resist it. As soon as it was pubbed and I saw it was available at Barnes & Noble, I ordered it online for pickup in store, which is a tool that I try to use to keep from buying more books than I need. I might already have that, but whatever. Anyhow, it didn't work this time. I'll tell you about it in a minute. In Expiration Dates, this is a great premise. Daphne Bell believes the universe has a plan for her. Every time she meets a new man, she receives a slip of paper with his name and a number on it, the exact amount of time they will be together. The papers told her she'd spend 3 days with Martin in Paris, 5 weeks with Noah in San Francisco, and 3 months with Hugo, her ex-boyfriend turned best friend. Daphne has been receiving the numbered papers for over 20 years, always wondering when there might be one without an expiration. Finally, the night of a blind date at her favorite Los Angeles restaurant, there's only a name: Jake. But as Jake and Daphne's story unfolds, Daphne finds herself doubting the paper's prediction and wrestling with what it means to be both committed and truthful. Because Daphne knows things that Jake doesn't, information that, if he found out, would break his heart. So, dang. This looks really good. But I need to read some other stuff first. But anywho, I'm not sad that I bought that. So, as per usual, when I walked into Barnes & Noble to pick up expiration dates, I started wandering around, just glancing to see if there was anything else that caught my eye. And this book, 2054, did catch my eye. It is, I guess it's the story of... Well, let me backtrack a little bit. This is a sequel. And of course, I could not buy the sequel without buying Book 1, 2034, a novel of the next World War. So, we'll start with telling you about this one. I do love kind of apocalyptic fiction, and the print in this is really small. I did check out the author a little bit to see what he was like. But let's go in here. On March 12th, 2034, that's 10 years from now, almost exactly. It's March 22nd right now. U.S. Navy Commodore Sarah Hunt is conducting a routine freedom of navigation patrol in the South China Sea. On that same day, U.S. Marine Aviator Major Chris Wedge Mitchell is flying an F-35E Lightning, testing a new stealth technology as he flirts with the Iranian airspace. By the end of that day, Wedge will be an Iranian prisoner, and Sarah Hunt's destroyer will lie at the bottom of the sea, sunk by the Chinese Navy. A new, terrifying era is at hand. So, this is Book 1. Then, 20 years later, Book 2. It's 20 years after the catastrophic war between the U.S. and China that brought down the old American political order. A new party has merged in the U.S., one that's held power for over a decade. Efforts to cement its grip have resulted in mounting violent resistance. The American president has control of the media, but he's beginning to lose control of the streets. Many fear he'll stop at nothing to remain in the White House. Suddenly, he collapses in the middle of an address to the nation. After an initial flurry of misinformation, the administration reluctantly announces his death. A cover-up ensues, conspiracy theories abound, and the country descends into a new type of civil war. I actually listened to an interview with one of the authors about this book, and it talks about some of the stuff in here, AI, biotech, etc. So this should be interesting, but first we have to get through 2034. The final book that I purchased was one that I saw on Instagram or Twitter, I can't remember. It is by Pulitzer Prize finalist Adam Rapp, and it is called Wolf at the Table. Earlier this week, I had a hankering for some serial killer books, and I didn't realize that this was going to be one, but it is. As late summer 1951 descends on Elmira, New York, Myra Larkin, 13, the oldest child of a large Catholic family, meets a young man she believes to be Mickey Mantle. He chats her up at a local diner and gives her a ride home. The matter consumes her until later that night, when a grisly triple homicide occurs just down the street, opening a specter of violence that will haunt the Larkins for half a century. I'm bloop, bloop, bloop. Slow down, Lee. As the siblings leave home and fan across the country, each pursues a shard of the American dream. Myra serves as a prison nurse to death row inmates while raising her son Ronan, and struggles to hold on to the principles she was raised to believe. Her middle sisters, Lexi and Fiona, find themselves on opposite sides of class and power, with Lexi chasing the romanticized accoutrement of suburbia, while Fiona is drawn to the offbeat lifestyle of a modern bohemian. ALEC, once an altar boy, is banished from the Larkin house and descends into ever darker brushes with violence, and I think I've stopped recording. Is it still going? Okay. I'm gonna just write it out, and if I have to change SIM cards, I'll just re-record this later. Anywho, I think Adam is a serial killer. And I've got 4 more books, but I've got to stop and check this out. That's it for me right now. Happy reading.